Morning, everyone, and welcome to Perth County Council's meeting this November the 10th. I'd like to call our meeting to order. If everyone could please bow their heads for a moment of reflection. Thank you. If you have pecuniary interest, you can disclose that now or as the meeting goes along. We need a motion to confirm the agenda. Moved by Doug, second by Hugh. All in favor? Carried. Okay. First item on our agenda is our staff reports under Public Works, and it's a design presentation of five-year and rental and connecting link. So, John, are you taking it away? The floor is yours.
Thank you, Deputy Warden Eggets, and good morning, Council. Thank you for attending today's special council meeting to discuss the 5-year renovation and connecting link addition project. This term of council has made significant decisions to move forward several facility projects that have improved the security, accessibility, and delivery of services at the courthouse campus. The 5-year reno and connecting link project is a major piece to these improvements. And it is important that this term of council has the opportunity to review the final design and receive an updated cost estimate. With us today are Golnar and Paul from Mayhew and Robert Ritz from Ritz Architects, who will be facilitating the presentation. It'll be important to remember and reflect on how we arrived at this point today and the decisions that this council has made along the way. After the presentation, we will be asking you to make another important and difficult decision to continue to move this project forward. I'll now turn the presentation over to Paul.
Perfect, thanks. Good morning, everybody. I think Golnar's just coming in. Golnar's remote today. She's very, very remote. She's traveling on business, so she's, don't hold it again, she's in Vegas.
Oh.
We did speak to her this morning already, so I do know that she's up. So time change is a little bit different. So and we have Robert with us as well. So if we can just, there's Golnar, there we go.
Morning, everyone.
Are you able to share the presentation? Or showing me to do it? Okay, don't worry about it, Golnar. We're going to share it from here.
Would you like me to start it now?
If you could, yeah.
Sure.
So I'm just gonna spend a couple of quick minutes just to kind of bring everybody back. It's been a little while since we were together. Can you just go to the next slide for me?
Just decide we'll go full screen mode here.
Yep. Perfect. Yeah, you just go to slide 2. Go. So, as John said, council has done a lot together to get us to where we are on this project, and we had committed right at the very onset of this engagement to come back at key milestones or at critical points just to keep council in the loop and informed and to get direction as needed. And we're kind of at that point again with what we're going to present today. We've made some pretty significant steps forward with respect to layout and design, having our architectural partner with us today to be able to talk about what it will look like, from the outside, et cetera. And then some refinement of the budget that we'll work through today as well. We have completed, as you can see on that list, I'm not going to go through a number of critical steps to get to where we are. We are still in design development. If you just go to the next slide for me. I think there's a couple of things that are really important to remember as we go through this is to step back to the original purpose of this, right? The original purpose was we had a space issue. We have a space issue. We need more and we need different space. And there's financial impacts on continuing to lease and to build, et cetera. We went through a variety of different options to really take a look at what was the best solution based on a whole bunch of different factors. I think the foundation of this is really around service delivery and how you interact with the customers and really supporting the delivery of those services. The foundation is to continue to create a space that the county will be an employer of choice, will allow employees to interact and collaborate and grow so that they can continue to provide good service. The other part is that the county is and does have a foundation of stewardship when it comes to facilities. You have a pretty iconic building that you own in the heart of Stratford, right? Being that courthouse. And you don't really appreciate it until you actually physically get to see it. And the county has a responsibility to that facility. At the same time, we have a building that was built in the 50s that you have a responsibility for as well, that functionally and operationally would work really well for the county. From a staff accommodation perspective, from an access perspective, rolling already. So it was about how do we now operationally looking at things like security as well to create those two facilities together and to make those the right solution, if you will. Still being respectful for the architecture that's in place with the courthouse building, and then really taking a building that is, you know, a little bit more functional, if you will, and bringing that in. And that's where that link came from, the ability to connect those buildings. So functionally, from an interiors perspective and operational perspective, we can do that. But that architectural piece to making sure that it's just consistent and also becomes important. Those are some of the things that we're going to work through today. So the updated and revised layout. So you've seen initial layouts. There has been some changes there to support security, to support service delivery. Robin's going to go through the building elevation. We had some really kind of fun stuff that we put in front of you just from a thought starter perspective. Now it becomes a lot more functional. It has that architectural piece, which is absolutely critical. Gomar will then come back on. She's going to stay online, but she can jump into the presentation. She'll work through finishes palette, kind of where we are on that, what we've landed on, along with some updated interior views. And then what we'll do is we'll finish up and work through what we call a Class D budget. So again, a little bit more tighter than what we had presented before. And we'll go through that. There's still lots of leeway in that budget. But as we said off the top, it's important that we continue to keep council engaged, and you can see where we are every step of the way. We're not going to leak anything to you, but it has been impacted. There's lots of things going on in the world today that are impacting our daily lives, and your facilities are no different to that. But we'll walk you through that. All right, we can go to the next slide. And Robert, I'm going to let you jump in and do your thing.
I'm going to stand up.
All right.
I'll walk around. That's how I work. We go to the next slide. So the building, the trick is what's this going to look like? How's it going to work? What's it got to do with respect to bringing people into the building? Right now, you have a very elaborate ramp system to bring people into 5 Huron. And I was trying to figure out a way, how can we do that without having the formal ramp? So in the building code, the cutoff line is a 5% slope. So anything steeper than 5% or 1 in 20 is considered a ramp. So if you keep it under that, you're fine. And so the idea was, I don't know if you can blow this portion up further. You seem to be a real wizard with this.
Don't jinx
There we go. Don't jinx it. So back, let's just do the bottom edge here. So parking and accessibility is what it's all about. And as you know, we park all along this side of the property. And we right now don't have a sidewalk in front of all the cars. You have to walk down the middle of the driveway. It holds up traffic, potential injury. So we've added a sidewalk along the entire length. Okay. Now to get in, what we've done is we worked the grades that from here, it's that 1 in 20 slope. So no ramp, it's just a regular walkway into the entrance point of the building. We have a canopy around this portion, so you're out of the elements. And we have stairs here for anybody accessing this way, but if you want to walk up here, it's just a longer walk. But again, it's not a formal ramp. Okay, and much like now, you have to go at one end of the ramp. Here, you're coming from this side, you walk right up and into the building. This end, you come up the steps, and we have sidewalk running the length of the parking lot. If you want to back zoom a bit. So the other thing that you notice here is this walkway that runs around the back of the building. And what we had to do is that there's a rear exit. And so you have to have the exit leading back towards the front driveway. Currently, from that rear exit, we come through the courtyard and we're there. Well, that's been blocked now. And the second exit from the link is also at the back. So we had to bring sidewalk around the perimeter of the building along to the front. So what this does is sort of does two things. It's not only just a walkway, it's also the point where we collect water coming down the hill, and you see the arrows along one edge of it, especially on the top edge. We will be installing French drains to receive the water before it goes onto the sidewalk. And again, this sidewalk, there's no steps. It's all that 5% slope or flatter. So again, it's easy for snow blowing in the wintertime, and you will have snow, especially up along the jail wall. I expect there's probably major drifting along there. But again, we work the grades that you can walk right into the back as well. So that's sort of the story of those parts of the site. Now, what we also have is we have buildings, and the buildings don't have the same grid. They don't line up at all. You can see the twist. The courthouse is facing due east, north, south this way, and 5 Huron's got the twist on it. And that's typical in this great city of Stratford, with the 30-degree angle between Huron Street and Ontario Street. So what we did is, how do you respect this building and connect it into this building? And so what we did is we used the grid of the courthouse for the facade of the link. And we picked it up here as well, where the existing entrance is, again to reflect that grid of the courthouse. The other thing the grid did for us is that it allowed me to set this back to get the length I needed to get in that front door. Earlier designs, we basically came straight across the front here, and we indented it to play on the grid of the courthouse. Now, how do you connect? You know, it's the majestic versus the monolithic. So the majestic, or the high Victorian architecture of the courthouse, and we have this very monolithic looking mid-century modern former registry office in the day. And the typical way of doing it is introduce a third element, because you can't really make it look like the courthouse because it doesn't have the stature. And the monolithic structure is just that. And so what we did is I call it the black box, or the TD tower concept, where you link it with basically a glass walled structure. And then we picked up on the glass walling here as well. And then along here, we have punched windows. So it's sort of picking up a bit on the architecture of this building, enhancing it, and then applying it here. So the reason for this indent is for the distance to get into the front door. And then this grid reflects off of 1 Huron. This box in the middle here is the higher roof of the main lobby. And then we have a lower roof along with the roof of the canopy. They're at the same height, which is at the same height as the current canopy at the back of the courthouse. So we're actually tying into the very same points that is. So we stay below the windows of the courthouse. So we're respecting that portion of that structure. The other thing that's interesting here with respect to building code, the courthouse is a 2-story building with a basement. Well, when you add this much basement, because that's what it is, because we're connecting to the main level, if the basement gets too high out of the ground, then the courthouse becomes a 3-story building. And when an assembly occupancy of 3 floors becomes 3 floors, it needs a sprinkler system. And as much as I would love to see a sprinkler system in the courthouse, because it is the facade of Ontario Street, or the focal point of Ontario Street, we developed a way to avoid that. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a firewall right on the line between 5 Huron and the link. And that keeps the link as part of the basement of the courthouse. And then 5 Huron, it'll be the first floor. So you have a basement connecting to a first floor. We checked the numbers to see if we could include all of 5 Huron, and we got to about here, and then it said, no, we're now kicking into a 3-story building scenario for the courthouse. So we put in a firewall, problem goes away. So we can go now into the inside the link. Next slide.
Yeah, just go. You prefer to let me. There we go.
Well, actually, it's the facade. Now, what's interesting with the facade or the elevation, is that it's hard because of the angles. So what we've done is we basically, this is looking pretty flat because this wall and this wall and this wall are all on not the same plane, but they're all facing due north more or less. And then this building here is tipping back. Okay, so, but we just left it flat because to adjust the lines to hide mullions or whatever, vertical mullions really wasn't giving us the effect, or it was hard to, this gives us, it's simpler to do it this way. So this is the canopy here. So this is the covered portion. There's our walkway in. You can see how the grades were here. It was interesting how the grades fell quite quickly through here. And then this is the stair coming up into the front doors of the building. So largely glass panel here for corporate signage. And you can see why we started to pick up this to reflect this, which gives us a bit of balance, leaving this sort of as the central point, and this is linking on. And it is what it is. It is a new building next to an older, taller, more majestic building. But again, if the colors of this are 10, and we're thinking in the darker tones, don't know a whole lot about the space panel and how we're going to do that yet. So there's going to be reviews with respect to colors. This will respect this, and the window frames of this are already dark, so that whole dark thing is continuing through, and then we could leave that structure as a red brick structure that it is. There's some cracked brick, they can be repaired. We could probably find brick off the chimney or something on that building, or patching, whatever. So going to the inside.
One more, and then you can write it.
There we go. So it's not illustrated here. So let's just leave it full view, and then I'm gonna call the rest by just gonna get in the front door. So canopy is here. So that's covered. The steps are here, and the walkway ends here. And there's a guard across the front here to keep people from falling over the edge, because there is a grade difference because of the stairs at the west end. And you can see the grid pattern coming through here and how this reflects through the building. And then within the structure, you see how the grid starts to turn. So you can see following the courthouse grid, then we're picking up on the higher, the reception is now following the 5 Huron grid. And that's sort of how that works. And in denser front door, we can still have our sidewalks running the length of the building, or the parking lot safer. You can see the rear exit, how it works, and it doesn't show the linkage of the sidewalks, but we come out of the back door of the link and then run around behind the stair and then down the west side of 5 Huron. And it's here's Paul.
Perfect.
If you want to continue on the interior.
Yeah, hold on a second, pick up interiors for us.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I will walk you through the interior space and the changes we have made since last time you had the chance to take a look at the layout. As we enter into the space through the vestibule, within the connecting link, we have the service desk at front. We have POA to the right. We have a step down and a ramp, interior ramp that leads to the entrance to the courthouse, and a small waiting area to accommodate both buildings. There are a couple of washrooms, one of them a universal washroom to meet the Ontario Building Code, which will be serving both public and staff. The door next to the service desk is leading into the elevator lobby at the back, and the exit staircase, and essentially the exit to the back, as Robert explained. On the right side, we have this door that leads us into the 5 Huron space. In terms of adjacencies, the location of teams and groups fairly stayed where they were before. We just played around with the allocation of a space a little bit more. We have a large meeting room, which again is it's public facing and internal facing. We have the planning and economic development teams allocated to the top of the space. We have a couple of space for the hoteling stations or future growth. We have one workstation for legal services. And then their private offices are along the bottom side of the plan. Next to their offices, we have a small meeting space. Next to the meeting space, we have CAO's office. Next to CAO's office, we have the HR office. And next to that is the planning. It's the land room. That's an existing land room to remain. To the center of the plan, we have the existing washrooms and the janitor's closet to remain where it is. We are just going to refinish the finishes and upgrade the finishes. And on the opposite side, we have the servery and the printer area that serves the upper level. In the center, we have the open collaborative space and the project wall. Behind that, we have a niche for storage, lockers, and filing space. To the right of that, we have a 6-person office. Next to that, we have legislative services office. And the office on top is a hoteling station or a future growth office. Next to that, we have a corporate legal office. And all these workstations are allocated to all of the functions that are, all of the departments that are facing in this corner. We have 2 ways to go to the lower level. We either take the steps to go to the lower level or take the elevator down. So we can go to the next slide. So we are now at the lower level. Let's say we arrive, get off the elevator at this point. We have the staircase that leads to the exit to the main level and the mechanical room for the elevator. As we enter, we have the lunchroom and the wellness room. We have a corner for lockers and storage. We have a public works office. Behind that, we have a couple of benching stations for public works. And right behind public works, we have this large storage space. Next to that, we have the large meeting room or boardroom. This long wall along the office will be used as an opportunity for branding and graphics to add more interest into the lower level. But as we go into the open office space, we have the IT on the top corner, and we have finance team at the bottom corner with their workstations and private offices. That large L-shaped space at the top corner is dedicated to IT, server room, and storage. The washrooms at the lower level are right below the washrooms on the upper level. And on the opposite sides is the kitchen. So all of the plumbing services are going to be focused in one location. That little room in the lunchroom is the utility room where the hot water tank, etc., will be located. So initially, if you remember, we had the exit on the bottom, at the bottom right corner, and now the exit is on the towards the top left to accommodate exiting from the lower level. Is there any questions or anything you would like me to go further into in regards to the space plan? Because we would like to move on to the finishes palette and the interior views.
Goldner.
Yes.
maybe tell them why we don't have the elevator inside the existing building and why the exit location changed from the west side to the east side.
Sure, absolutely. Initially, we had the elevator located in, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor where I'm pointing at. It's like where the IT office is, right in that corner. Yes, exactly. We had the elevator somewhere along the exterior wall of that that corner. We have now moved it to where you see on this plan for a couple of reasons. Number one, we wanted to accommodate the existing services that are there, and try to avoid moving any services or creating additional costs there. And the second reason for that is that we can put the elevator in phase 2 of the project, and this would accommodate phasing of the project, and elevator is a long lead item. It would help with the project timeline and construction. In terms of the exit door, we initially proposed the exiting to be at the bottom right corner, trying to using the stair or the window wells that are existing in this on the west side of the building. However, after doing the site, an additional site survey, we realized that we would be impeding into the jail property if we kept the stairs there and try to maintain the clearances around it. So in collaboration with Robert, we've moved the staircase to where you see now, as it will help us with not to impede into the jail property, and also accommodate the exiting and connecting it to the back and leading it to the sidewalk that's going to be provided for the exit. Is my explanation satisfactory, Robert?
I'll add a couple points. If the elevator was inside the building, it would be a lot of handwork or manual work versus machine work. We had to cut through 2 floors. We had to excavate down about 5.5 feet to the elevator pit, and to do all that basically by hand is more expensive. So placing it on the outside or in the link, again, it's heavy machinery can now do the work for us. It's a lot easier. We're not cutting through floors. We're punching walls, but cutting a hole through walls is relatively easy. And also with the exits there, it gives you the convenience that you can go from the link right to the basement without going through the first floor of 5 Huron. So it became more convenient in case staff want to come upstairs. And again, the elevator on the outside, again, you don't have to go through the first floor of 5 Huron to get to the elevator. This way you can go right off the lobby to the elevator, first floor, second floor, it's your choice. So those are a couple other reasons.
Thank you, Robert.
Doug?
Yes, through you, Deputy Warden. Can you point out the security measures that are being implemented for the public access? Or will that come later?
Yes, actually, if you can go back to the main level. We have with John's information that was provided, we have thought about the security measures as well. So all the doors are going to be on card readers, so there's no open access. As you can see, POA has 2 points of exits and entry into their space, same as the service desk. There are 2 points of entry go in and out of the space for security measures, and all the other doors are going to be on card readers, so the public cannot just open the door and go through, and it has to be on mag locks and card readers to have access. Is that satisfactory?
And Golnard's John here, maybe I can just add a bit to that. So the current entrance into the courthouse, Sean's kind of showing there, That will also now be card read, and people will be buzzed into the one Huron side via the reception desk. And again, POA fine payments we've put out into the connecting link. So it's, again, we're just looking at the services that are provided by both facilities and trying to best, I guess, create layers of security within all sort of three areas of these facilities. And this allows us to do that. POA may not be currently able to utilize fine payments in this space at the moment. But again, we're building for not only now, but into the future. And the idea is to have fine payments being done in the connecting link. So public will have access into the connecting link. If they come in and need to use a bathroom, they are there in the connecting link. All the doors either into 5 Huron or into the courthouse at 1 Huron are secured by card readers and being buzzed in by the reception. So you have a number of focal points and secondary exits into areas of refuge, into other buildings. So again, this has all been sort of designed through a lens of security here and redesigned. And just taking, with the fine payments, that can sometimes be, a little bit of a security issue at times. So we're just trying to take that element and put it out into the connecting link so that really people going into 1 Huron or into 5 Huron are basically people who are there for certain modes of business and will be let in appropriately. And anybody just coming in to do a fine payment or meet with anybody, then they're there at central reception, and we just have better control of security of all the facilities here.
And also, John, there's a visual link between reception and the door to the courthouse.
Correct. Thank you, Robert. So again, yeah, just able to see everywhere here where we're letting people in. And again, this will all be supported by additional security cameras and access points in the area.
Just to piggyback, and it's security, but it's not necessarily the security people think about. Just the layout of the space itself also supports that. So John had said, the only people that will physically come into the administrative space would be known invited guests. However, the location of that large meeting room is on purpose. Because if I'm an invited guest, I have no reason to go anywhere else in that building other than that meeting space. So it keeps me close to the front of the building. So I'm not gonna listen to what the CAO is saying, because that's further deeper into the building. IT and finance are on a different level. Generally, the public invited guests are not going to that space anyway. So we really control those different layers. General public, we can see them. They're in a secure space. They can't get anywhere else in the building. Invited, yes, you get to go behind the secure wall, but you don't have any need to go deeper into that space. So that comes with some protocols as well, but it's those little things that also get designed into the space.
And a side that has not so much security, I didn't mention earlier, the firewall thing. You might wonder, why do you have a swing door on the elevator? Well, we need a 2-hour rating on that wall, and the elevator doors they're not sealed properly. So we had to have a door in the firewall. So that door will always be in an open position, except when the fire alarm sounds. Then it would close and security, have some fire security at that point.
Thank you.
Thank you through the warden too, and deputy warden. And it's from a staff perspective and from personal experience, separating out the public washrooms from staff washrooms. That's very, very key for our sense of security. And I can tell you from personal experience, everybody right now uses the downstairs in the courtroom, in the courthouse, the downstairs. And there's only 2 washroom stalls in there. So when you are in with the general public, if they are aggravated, and that's happened, it's a very uncomfortable situation to be in. So that was really a nice opportunity to take, to be able to separate those 2 out. And having the washrooms where other people are in the area, we can see who's going in, we can see who's coming out. And that lends itself to even better protection for the general public using those washrooms.
Okay, Governor, I think we can continue.
Okay, great. Okay, we can go to the next slide. This slide kind of lays out the finishes palette. As you can see, the finishes are neutral, inspired by nature and the farm fields of the Perth County. The colors, the accent colors are inspired by Perth County's branding colors. So we would like to bring in the brand of Perth County, as well as how inspiring the nature, the fields are around. So you can see the same sense of the fields into the carpet, which is introduced in a very abstract way. And the rest of the palette is just bringing wood finishes, connecting the outdoors to the indoors, and etc. So that's our overall feel of the space. If we can go to the next slide. The 3D views are going to give us a bit of a sense of the space and how they are going to look like. Obviously, we are still working through finalizing those details and finishes. So, but these images will help us understand the volume of the space a little bit better. We are now standing at the connecting link, looking at the reception desk with the security glass around. That door next to this reception desk leads to the elevator lobby behind. The door on the right leads to 5 Huron, and where you see the green wall as an accent is where the washrooms are going to be located. And the yellow wall on the left is going to be used as a branding as well as a wayfinding wall for the courthouse. You can see the ceiling height within the connecting link is higher than the rest of the area. So that's, as you come in, you feel the volume of the space. It feels more grand and welcoming. And then the services are under the lower ceiling. Next slide, please. Now we have entered into 5 Huron main floor, looking towards the back of the main floor. Where the open offices are, we can see the project wall and the open collaborative area. Behind that, where we see the green walls, are the existing washrooms, and the kitchenette is next. Kitchenette and the printer area is located for the use of the main floor. All of the offices are along the right side of the view. And that glass sort of a room towards the end is the 6-person meeting room space with workstations behind that. Next view, please. We are now in the lower level, standing at the open office area, looking towards the large meeting room. That's the large meeting room. We have this long wall on the right side, which is a great opportunity really to again bring in some graphics of the nature of the fields. We have a great opportunity here to introduce some lighting that brings the daylight level lighting in, keep it light and bright. To gives it a more of an open or a welcoming sense of space. And towards that gray wall, we have the printer area, and the 2 workstations here at the center are the hoteling stations or the future growth stations. Okay, next, please. If there's no questions around the views, I can move on to Class D budget. If
You do have
everyone's-
one question, Bob. Go ahead.
I got a couple questions, I guess. What's the height of the ceiling in the basement? And are you able to use the windows in the basement for outside lighting?
Yes, the ceiling height at the basement is 8 feet. We are leaving the ceiling exposed so we can actually take advantage of the full 8 feet. Through planning and design, we are going to strategize and work with the engineers to ensure that we can try to keep the ceiling as clean as possible, running the ducts and the services perhaps through the perimeter of the lower level, keeping the center more open and clean. The lighting will be minimalistic, more surface mounted with minimum depth, so it doesn't really take away from the ceiling height there. If you can, we can go back to the 3D view. Yes. So as you can see, we can try to keep the ceiling as clean as possible, and the lighting will be really minimal and surface mounted to take advantage of that 8 feet high ceiling and not lose any further ceiling height. Sorry, your second question was around the windows. If you can, we can go back to the lower level layout or space plan. Thank you. So there are currently 3 windows at the lower level, which we are planning to keep as existing. These windows are going to let some daylight in as well. So you can see these are next. We have positioned the open office next to these windows, where the IT and finances are. So no room is really blocking the windows, and the light can come in through the space further. The other 2 windows are located on technically the south wall of the building, on the top. One of them is in the lunchroom, which adds daylight again into the lunchroom. Another one is in the wellness room, which is important. The daylight is important for wellness, and it was important to have a room that gives that opportunity. And the other one is located actually for the washroom, and that's an existing window, which we will have to make sure it's treated right to for privacy reasons. But those are the existing windows. We are not planning to add any additional windows. We hope to have the adequate light through existing windows and proper lighting on the lower level. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none? No, keep going.
Okay, so we are now at the budget discussion and budget comparison. We initially ran a budget, a Class D budget, which is a plus or minus 20-25% discrepancy. Last year, September of 2021, we were at 2.1 million for the budget, which brought us at around $210 a square foot for a 10,000 square feet of space. We ran the budget last week, and when we got the numbers, we were at 4.8 million, which brings us at $434 a square foot for 11,062 square feet of space. I can now explain why we are where we are on the next slide, please. So hopefully the difference makes better sense. I understand there's a huge gap there. The reason for the budget that has been increased, we technically have 2 reasons. One is two criterias cause this additional cost. One is related to the building itself, and the other one is related to the market condition. The building, when we initially ran the budget, September of last year, we exercised it for 10,000 square feet of space. And since then, we have come a long way with the layouts and the additional requirements. And the first budget was not done based on a site verified plan. The second round, we had the site verified plan, which covered the discrepancy on the square footages, which puts us at 11,062 square feet. So we are over 1,000 square feet discrepancy there. So we have added another 1,000 to the space. The additional site work, which is related to the new sidewalk, the extensive site work to accommodate the exiting condition, as Robert explained earlier, providing the exiting through the back of the building versus to the west side of the building, all of that had added to the budget and the cost of the project. Initially, we did not have the HVAC units as new. They were existing to remain. Now, this is an opportunity to have new HVAC units, as the 6 existing units are at the end of their life cycle, and new units are required fairly soon. So we are now looking at adding minimum three HVAC units to the new building, which is not, when you look at the HVAC cost, it's not just the cost of the unit, it also includes cost of additional structural work on the roof, cost of new duct work and layout. So all of that are going to be taken into consideration for the new budget. And the parking rework was also not part of the initial budget when we looked at it. Now we are looking at resurfacing the existing parking, connecting it to the sidewalk, and doing the additional site work that's required for the front of the building. In terms of reasons where we are, in terms of market conditions, that budget was done a year ago. It's the time has, as time has passed, the cost of things have changed, the price of things have changed. So the timing has caused some of the increase of the budget. We are now sitting at 7% inflation rate, and the cost of construction in terms of material, finishes, and labor, we know that it has increased by 20% at this point. This budget has a contingency of about 25% in it. It is a high-level budget. We are able to, as we tighten our design and we move towards tender, when we go for tender, we are going to see the actual real number, which is a Class A budget, the actual numbers, and hopefully that 25% contingency is going to be drastically decreased because the budget was done based on minimum information available, and it is inflated. It is a inflated number, as all Class D budgets usually are. So those are the reasons why the difference in cost is, as we have seen in according to the newest Class D budget that we ran last week. If there's any questions, I can now answer those questions.
Just before, if I could, Deputy Warden, just to comment on what Golnar presented. These numbers are not unique to this project. We are seeing these types of cost escalations, and I use that word purposely, everywhere. We're doing a large retrofit for a large insurance company in Kitchener-Waterloo. The construction cost increase there is just over 18% in a year. We're seeing it everywhere. We have a new build that we're doing for another client in the KW area. The project has doubled in cost. And it's just the cost of materials that we're seeing right now. So I wanted to put that out there. There is that 25% contingency baked in there. We did work backwards with the numbers, so we have been through the things that have been additive to the project versus when we first did the budget. And we did take a look at inflation and that 20%. And when we roll that back out, we're pretty much in line with the 2.1, $200,000 over. So the numbers, although they're not pretty, I mean, we didn't want to see 4.8, but they're real numbers, they're reality. And we can justify those numbers as to where we are right now. So said that we would be transparent, but we said we would come back frequently to council at every step of the way, and this is where we are right now.
Okay, Bob?
I doing quick calculations, I can't come up with the same numbers you can at doubling it to more than doubling it. I can come up with 40% increase on build over estimates. I can go along with your 10% adding for increasing size. And I can go with $250,000 for HVAC and $250,000 for a parking lot. And I don't come anywhere near 4.8 million. So I can't agree with your numbers.
Okay, to Deputy, we can provide that level of detail. I have nothing that we can physically present in the presentation, but we can provide back the construction budgets, those things that we've got, and we can work through those numbers with you if need be, line by line, so you can see where that number gets built out of when you get that 4.8 from. So.
Sorry, just wanted to add that we reach out to current general contractors. They are very well involved in day-to-day construction when it comes to these type of budgets, and we ask them to put these budgets together for us. So they are really familiar with the market conditions, and they use softwares to generate these Class D budgets. So that's why we think there is a great opportunity to lower this number. We don't necessarily need to end up at 4.8 million for the renovation and addition of this project. But it was worth sharing to just let everyone know what the Class D looks like. From here, we can just work towards lowering it from this point.
Okay, Doug, did you have a question?
What's the new build cost? I just want to refer back to when I'm a new build guy. We just built a new town hall, just opened it to 14,000 square feet, 2.7, 2.5, 2.7 million. What's your new build cost now? It's way too late, Golnar, way too late, because we all knew that renovating is way more money. I said $4 million when I was driving here today, and we got another 8, and it'll be over 5 when we're done, when they're done. I'm leaving in about a half an hour, forever. But I just wanted to know, do you have a new build price cost on a 11,000 square foot building in your head roughly?
So the 11,000 square feet is the total of addition and the renovation. The size of the addition, the new build scope is 1,800 square feet, which is on the lower side of the new build construction. And you may be aware of the fact that once the square footage is less, the cost per square footage goes higher because it's just in relevance to the GC it will cost the same or more for the GC to bring labor to site for less of the square feet. So that's what we see across the board. If we are to build like 20,000 square feet, it's so much less per square footage when it comes to cost of the new build versus 1,000 square feet. Cost per square footage goes up. I do have a number for that. Within the budget, they separated the new build scope as a separate line. and it was I believe it was 2.5 million. I can double check that number and get back to you, but it is in the range of 2.5 million. Don't know if that answers your question.
It does. It means like the new part, the little part you're building is 2.5 million, and the rest of the project, you have a 2.3 million to renovate the other, what is it, 9,000 square feet to renovate 9,000 square feet is say 2.5 million, and to build 2,000 square feet is $2 million. I just wanted to know that number.
That's right. And again, this is a high level number. Please still look at it as a high level number, as think about it as we can go down by another 20-25% from this point, without sacrificing anything else. If we have to go back to the drawing board, start looking at where we can sacrifice things, obviously that's always an option. However, not to sacrifice anything from the design perspective or what we have prepared up to this point, we can try to go down for another 20-25% from this point.
Okay, I think Jim had his hand on the screen. We'll go there and then I'll come to you, Todd.
Okay, so I heard Bob's comments, Councillor Wilhelm's comments, Councillor Wright's comments. So the one thing you got to keep remembering here, this has a 25% contingency fee built into it. So that is $1.2 million in my math. So that 4.8 could become 3.6. And that's all depending on what happens in the next 6 months or whatever. And in the recession-proof economy we're living in, these figures could come down drastically. Could they go up? Well, that's your contingency built in. All I'm going to say is we knew this was going to happen. It's not a surprise. But the longer we delay and the longer we stall, the more it's going to cost you. And if you want to talk about a new build, you're looking at a new build for all of the staff, not just for the 9,000 square feet next door. Because you're not going to have half in one spot and half in another. So you're looking at millions more dollars than what we're looking at here. You know, it makes perfect sense what we're doing. It's took us way too many years to get to this point, but it's time we made a final decision here and moved on, because the longer I almost used a bad word there. The longer we play around, the more it's going to cost us. Yeah, you guys know me all too well. I apologize for not being in person today, but I had a couple little issues to deal with. I just find it kind of ironic. This is the first meeting Todd's been at, and the first one I haven't in this turn. But it's good to see Todd there. Anyway, I'll let Todd talk.
Okay, Todd?
Just a simple question, if I may. When you look at the change in price, you've segregated it in your own budget as sort of scope changes essentially and market impact. Can you tell me the percentage of each that's contributing to the new total, roughly?
Ronald, can you get to that?
Sorry, can you repeat your question? I just want to make sure I understand it correctly.
Sure. So you have a change in budget, a material change from 2.1 to 4.8. You've made the position that budget change is essentially into two categories, and I like the way that's thought out. So what I'm asking is, what proportion, percentage of the change is market factors versus scope change factors or scope refinement factors?
Sure. So just looking at the numbers again, I think I can delve a little deeper into that and put something together to explain better. But right at this point, we are looking at the 20% increase. So from the previous budget, where the materials and finishes were considered, we are seeing 20% increase on that. So I think that could be for the market condition. There's also You mean, do you want me to associate number to these percentages? Is that?
Kumar, I think if I understand the question correctly, it's almost a 50-50 split. That, you know, the increases, half of it's coming through changes that we've made related to the building. And then about half of that increase is coming through price increases and contingency. Because if I roll out the 25%, you know, there's I think that was 1.25 million. If I roll that out, right, and then I take a look at what that now increase is, it's, you know, $1 million plus. Take the 7% out, take the 20% out for cost, is probably about 50-50. The challenge becomes getting that is that, you know, when I have things that we've increased related to the building, they've increased twice because they're additive to the project, and there's a 20% increase in implementing that because of the construction costs, et cetera. So it's a little bit hard to get to, but it's probably close to my gut would say it's probably close to about a 50-50. Right?
And sorry, just, you know, there's scope change, right? The parking lot is scope change, the size increase is scope change. The HVAC is scope change, and then the rest of it is, you know, inflation or whatever has happened with
the parking lot change there.
And so I was just trying to dissect which piece, you know, is it that the market circumstances have really deteriorated to the point where it's driving that huge surge in price, or is it the scope, or is it balance? You're saying it's balance.
Yeah, I think it's balanced, and I'm aware of the building. I think you said 2.1 for what you built in 2.7. I think if you would, yeah, Steve, you had the same reflection.
No, I don't think you are, but I was just rolling through the numbers and then I read 3.45 million.
Well, that's because we put in part of the fire hall too.
Was that in the fire hall?
What was our cost of our building? Your numbers got. Well, it's 2.7.
Yeah, it was with furniture, the administration building was in the 2.5 to 2.6 neighborhood. That was 14,000 square feet.
We did a bunch of parking out back and I knew.
Please speak up, please. I can hardly hear you.
We did a lot of extras.
Yeah, that was.
You were there.
$178 a square, $178 a square foot. You can't find that anymore.
No.
Again, you had Dom Construction build it, and Dom is, I don't know how they find their numbers, but they always seem to be the low price.
I think also that some of the HVAC stuff was not in that number, it was in the file hall number. I also believe it's a wood frame building too, right? So that is also a little bit impactful, but my point was if we were to do that building today.
You'll start it because it's too close to fire hall.
Okay, if we were to redo that building today, it wouldn't. Not a chance. Not a chance.
But we started this 8 years ago when I come on county council. Probably. Sorry.
Walter?
Well, just a couple things, I guess. I certainly agree with comments that Jim made. I think, you know, it is what it is. And certainly we built a fire hall and we built an administration building. The fire hall came in below budget. The administration came in at budget or just slightly over. We've also got a multi-purpose building that we're building in Keterson Park that we got a substantial grant for. And the grant we applied in 2019. We tendered in, we couldn't tender beforehand because the federal government wouldn't let us. We tendered in, I believe it was 2022, and it went right through the roof just because of building materials. We re-tendered, we downsized it, re-tendered, and it still came in higher than what our estimate. It's just the fact of life. So I think the real number that we really need to concern ourselves with is when we go to tender and what that number comes back at. And I feel reassured knowing that Councillor Wilhelm and Councillor Aitchison are going to negotiate with our good friend over here, Mr. Ritz, and I'm sure we'll get a better price.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing no more questions, we do have a motion and we'll read it out and see where it goes. So that county council receives the design presentation, 5-year rental and connecting link addition report. And that county council approve the 5-year rental and connecting link project design and direct staff to have permit drawings prepared. And that council directs staff to tender the 5-year rental and connecting link project with the pre-qualified contractors. Moved by Bob, second by Doug. Kellum. Any more comments or questions?
Just a quick one. Are you going to, can I? Just a quick one.
Comment?
Are you gonna try to massage anything for cost, or is it just a flat out like, Gallner said she could do some stuff like, I don't know. I'm not gonna be here. Like I said, I see that boardroom. It's got the wall taken out and a big V put in there. And are you just gonna get a design and then put it one design? Or are you going to try to massage the price if there's anything the council that's going to remain here wants to take out? Or do differently?
I'd comment that take it and run with it because you're going to continue to delay it. So just take it and go with it. Let's get it done.
Jim?
I agree with Councillor Wilhelm there. We really honestly don't make a final decision until the tender prices come back. Let's be real here. So if they come back and they're like really stupid, yeah, you may want to massage something. But they may come back lower than you anticipate because of that 25% contingency. So I think we just have to get it out to tender, get some numbers back, and then you have an actual figure to deal with.
Okay, Mr. Ricks?
A question or a comment. The way I would typically do this is I will probably be talking to Jake Dom and look for ideas from him on where he sees we can economize without losing the benefits of the interior package that you currently have. Because we're going through structural design right now and get a little feedback from Jake on efficiencies. And one of our greatest efficiencies, putting that elevator outside of the existing building. So, anyways, that's just a comment. Like I do drive for a low cut. People say, can you cut something out of it, Ritz? It's so lean, don't kill it. Yeah.
Okay, any more questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay. We don't have closed session. Do we have any council reports? No bylaws, notice of motions. Other business. Announcements. Confirmatory bylaw. That bylaw 3904-2022 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council of the corporation of the county of Perth at its regular meeting held November 10, 2022 is read a first, second, and third time and finally passed November 10, 2022. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Todd, second by Hugh. All in favor? Carried. And then we need an adjournment so that the special meeting of council be adjourned at 10:39. Moved by Doug Ite, second by Bob Wilhelm. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Gunnar and Paul and Rob Ritz. We appreciate it.